everything is working now. We are good, as you can see. There's a guest in the panel, and now we are back with Be Live. So welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you guys doing? My name is Ashley, if you don't know. And today, you can't see my face because that's weird. And today, I have for you the awesome, very, very nice lady. Very cool, too. Very fun to talk to. Her name's Jill. Jill, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Very good, very good. Glad to hear it. What is the weather like where you are?
We've just had snow. We just had snow yesterday.
How much?
Not much. In England, we have about that much snow. Have about that much snow in England.
That's
and
brilliant.
we have about a half a centimetre of snow. Hi there. And that's when everything in England just falls apart, basically. So in England, we're not designed for snow. We're not designed for snow, but it's all gone now. It's all gone now. There's meant to be more coming, but I don't mind because where I live, I can walk to the shops, and I can walk to a bus, and I can get down to the train station. So, and I don't care. So
that's good. That's good because we had like it got down to 40 degrees. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius, but 40 degrees Fahrenheit here, and I had a meltdown because I live in Florida and it's supposed to be 60 degrees all year round. At least 65, 70. So I've been currently in a meltdown situation, and that's not okay. So, Jill, let's start with who you are, and I know you have a lot of credentialing behind your name. So let's start with all that. Your name is Jill Wigmore-Welsh, and then what goes behind that?
Oh gosh, well I could add lots and lots of letters after it, but the three I put down, the only three I really put down are my MPH, which is my Master of Public Health, and my Healthcare and Professions Council membership. And the only reason I do that is because there are so many, so I don't bother. But I'm uber qualified in the physical side, because years ago I had a choice of being an architect or a doctor, and I didn't want to be a doctor because I didn't want to prescribe drugs or do surgery. So I came up with this good idea that I'd train as a physio, because it was only 3 years, and then I do a 3-year art degree afterwards, so I get the best of both worlds. But I ended up just sticking in physio, and then I got into that, became a manager, got into working with British judo and British rowing and traveling with the teams and everything, and did everything I could do as physio, and then got into psychology, and then I studied psychology, and then I studied hypnosis and psychotherapy, and neurolinguistics and Feldenkrais, and as I say, did my MPH and did coaching and all sorts of stuff, and basically that's what I've done. So it's kept me busy for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, how do you find the time? I can barely concentrate on dinner most of the time, so I can't imagine. I did have one really cool question. How have you seen like the medical field change in the last, couple of years, well, decade at least? Have you seen a big drop?
There's lots of shifts and changes that are taking place. There's loads of shifts that are taking place, because when I first started training, it was actually far more what we call biopsychosocial. In other words, the training was far more around the person and the environment, etc. And then it swung even more into like reductionist biomechanics, just very much, and now we're coming back out again. So the whole swing now with all of the science is that everybody is getting to start to talk about how much, or loads of longitudinal studies are coming out to show that things like knee replacement, shoulder surgery and hip replacement surgery is not as successful as they thought it was. So there's this big swing away. We're starting to come away from surgery, which is quite good, and lots more emphasis now, of course, on brain and nervous system, on pain as being an output. So really, we are very much more into a sort of very much more into a whole person approach to health now. But of course, it's left its legacy, because so many drugs, and especially like the opioids and things like that being prescribed. So there's huge problems in health. There's huge problems in health at the moment, but we have a very different system here from the system you have in the States. And I think the system we've got here we don't go, well, people don't get treatment as quickly in some ways, because there you've got like a lot more codes and things like this that people can have treatment under codes. But here it means that people don't, although they don't get sometimes as much treatment, it's as if it's shown that people don't need as much treatment. So it's like, it's almost as if people are benefiting. And so, yeah, there's a big swing now into, I suppose, society medicine is probably the big thing that I'd say is happening right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. My mom's a doctor and everything, so I get a lot of the books and I get a lot of med books and I read all that stuff. And I think one of the most fascinating things about you yourself is how many things in the actual health field you can do. You know what I mean? Some people have one specific practice and that's it, and that's all they do. But you are able to do so much with the human body, whether it's pain management, talking to somebody, hypnosis, all those things. So how do you even begin to build a resume with something like that? Because I imagine if I was hiring you and I saw a resume, I would be like, do you need my job? So how do you begin to branch out and find something that fits your specific lines of work?
Well, basically what's happened is that I've grown my niche, if that makes sense. So I went through a phase where I didn't understand it. So basically how I came to be on Facebook was because in about May of this year, I decided it would be good to do some marketing, because I've never done any marketing at all. I'd be like, oh, I wonder where I got clients from. They just used to arrive, So I arrived on Facebook and sort of thought, I think I'll learn about marketing. And then I sort of looked into stuff, and then I realized that I needed this idea of a niche. And the thing is that I work with certain kinds of people, basically. So it's easier for me to say I work with certain kinds of people than it is to say I work with certain problems. Because if I have a certain kind of person who comes along who is particularly interested, so the way I think about it is it's a bit like if you wanted to learn to play the piano and you were a beginner, you might just go off to a beginner teacher like if you just had a simple problem, you might go and see just a beginner teacher. But if you had a deeper interest and you were really passionate about life and the universe and yourself and stuff like that, you'd want to go to somebody who had a little bit more, not necessarily skill, but had more available to help you. So what it means is that you've got, if you've got like somebody who's got lots of opportunities to work in different ways with people, then what it means is you've got the flexibility. So you're not set in your ways. So it means that supposing I'm working with somebody, I've got a lot of flexibility.
Right. And Sterling is a guy he's not really he's not like a doctor. He's a massage therapist, but he says besides issue that they're born with, I think most people would feel better if they moved. He's a big advocate for moving, not so much stretching, but actually just moving. He said, which is what I enjoy. Feldenkrais method. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, well, I'm Feldenkrais certified. I've done the full 4-year Feldenkrais training amongst the other things I've done, and advanced training. I've done Ruthie Allen's Bones for Life training. Part of my MPH was studying part of that. So yeah, but you see what the Feldenkrais work is actually a brain and neuroscience, so a brain and nervous system habits. So it's all about habits. So basically Feldenkrais work is all about movement habits and how you can actually make a change to the way that you use yourself. So when I'm writing a resume, what I have to do actually is I have to be quite careful, because I have to make sure I only tell them what they want to know. So
that's it. That's half the battle right there.
So I say to them, what sort of work is it you want me to do? Oh, you want me to be a case manager? Okay, fine. I'll write my case manager resume, and then I'll write what it is I need to write for that. And so I think when anybody writes any sort of resume, that you've got to have different ones for the different jobs you do, because you need to know exactly what it is that they're looking for. We don't do a generic CV. So if I'm applying, like I went to see a lawyer on Wednesday, and she was asking me about stuff. And the thing is that when I send her some stuff, I will send her a specifically designed and made resume, which will show all the work I've done for all the law firms, and it will show all that stuff if you follow. But when it comes to most of the clients who work with me, to be honest, they're not that interested. They're not actually interested in knowing how many qualifications they've got. They just want to know, can you do the job? That's it. Can you do it? You know, like, I can't walk. I'd like to be walking.
Can you help me?
I've broken my leg. I need to be back at work. Is this something you do? And it's like, yes. Okay, you're hired. You know, and it's as simple as that.
That's funny. And when I think about, you know, and that's such like an obvious thing that I didn't even think of is like, you work in a field where, listen, if you can help me, I'm gonna pay you. And you do pain management. When it comes to pain management, what do you start with? Do you do like physical therapy? Do you do how do you start? Let's say someone broke their leg.
Yeah.
What's the beginning stages of pain management for that kind of thing?
Right. Well, the first thing about pain, as you probably know, is that you've got two types of pain. You've got acute pain, which is new pain, which is real pain, which is where you've got pain when the body is saying you've got damage. And then after 12 weeks, the body has already begun to start to learn this as a pattern. So the problem then is that the pain can be out of proportion to the injury. So there's acute pain, which is, okay, it's really bad and it's injured. And then you've got other kinds of pain. So if someone comes to me in really early stages, like I've got somebody who had like a jet ski, went through his leg and broke his femur, and he had to have a big rod put down the femur. So he phoned me from Spain, and he flew back from Spain after 10 days. So I saw him 10 days after he started, and he was in really severe pain. But the thing is, he was also very upset by what was going on. So he was he had a lot of fear. So calming down fear is one of the most important things when someone has got a lot of pain, to be honest. And in his case, it was about getting him to work, to move gently, to improve, but to balance that out. He needed pain medication, but we needed to get him moving. So, I mean, with pain, it very much depends. If it's ongoing pain, like chronic pain, first of all, it's explaining to the person so the person understands what you're talking about. So I'll spend an enormous amount of time asking them, what do you know about your pain? You know, like, what do you think it is? Tell me what you've been told. So first time they come in, usually it's a bit like story hour. You know, it's like, sit down. Oh, sit down. So how's your family? What do you normally like doing? And oh, really? What do you do by work? And, oh, really? And what's your hobbies? Really? And we go through all this lot, and they like get lulled into this false sense of security. They tell me everything about themselves, what they love to do, what they hate to do, and then I start asking them about their problem, because actually most of the stuff I need to know is everything about what makes them tick. And so when I'm working with their pain, I want to know the stories they've been told. I want to know all the stories. I want to know what their consultant told them. If a consultant turned around and said, oh, you're never going to walk again, this leg's never going to be right, this is never going to be okay, you know, you're always going to have a limp, or you're going to have really big problems. Because I want to know all the things that they have got in their head that are a barrier to them getting better, whether it's that they've been told it by a consultant, or if actually it's their next door neighbour who said something, or if it's their mum who said something, or if it's their auntie who's told them, or if they just read an article in the, you know, like the local paper that says everybody who has one of these. And I remember years ago this young guy coming in, because I was running this gym, and he came in, and we used to have all these people in like a big group. And he came in, and he was a young guy, and he was really subdued. And I remember going up, he was only probably about 17, and I said, what's the matter? And he said, oh, I was in the pub last night. And I said, yeah, and he said, well, there's an old boy down there. And he said, anybody who has an injury like mine ends up having his leg amputated when he gets older. And I said, no, they don't. Oh, he said, I thought they did. And he was really upset. So in pain management, what you need to know is like what the person knows, what they believe, what they've already been told, where they're coming from. And then when you're actually working with them, actually, you've got to be able to get them to understand that the pain's probably out of proportion to what's going on. Are you there?
Yeah, no, I'm listening. I'm just soaking all this in. Just because it's such good information, and it's I'm so glad that you're here, and these are things people need to know, because we're none of us are getting any younger. Our bones start to ache and make noises, and I'm just soaking everything you're saying in right now, and I have to know where the hypnosis plays into this, because I know you do hypnosis, and what you say you do what is
Brilliant.
what does it do?
It's brilliant. It really is. I mean, hypnosis isn't right. So we all do various forms of trance work all day long. All right. So any form of trance is when you're not present in the moment. Okay. So when you're present in the moment, like when you're listening, like when you got up just then and you walked away to get your drink, you went into a little trance. All right. You went into I'm now going to get up and walk across the room trance to get my drink, right? When you're sitting listening to me, you're in the now trance, yeah? But there's a perfect possibility you're also going, oh yes, but look at the time. I mean, it's a few minutes past this now, right? So all the time, we're flitting in and out of being in this present moment. And when you are in an altered state, for want of a better word, a different state, what happens is that's when you're daydreaming, yes? So if I'm talking about my client who's coming to see me, who's got, who's really worried, lot of pain, really scared, just had surgery, all seems to have gone wrong, they've got a mind that's full of this might be going on, that might be going on, that might be happening. And that is like a form of self-hypnosis. Do you understand? So it's like they are putting themselves into that state, right? And all the time they're saying those things to themselves, and they go to sleep and their subconscious is thinking this all night long. Then what's happening is that's having a huge impact on the brain, and it's causing parts of the brain inside to be firing off. And unfortunately, when you're firing parts of the brain off that are close to parts of the brain that trigger feelings of pain, it can start all getting mixed up. So you get a lot of pain feelings coming out. Do you follow? So with hypnosis, what can happen is that the first thing that you can do with something like hypnosis is that you can actually just teach the person to be beginning to start to get more control. A bit like when you do mindfulness, or you do relaxation, or you do any of those things, you can just begin to start to like bring it down. Do you understand? And so that process of hypnosis can be used through, and what I would say is just like a talking hypnosis. All right. So it's not like I have to take somebody into a hypnosis and say, I can't see anything now. Like watch the penny, watch the penny. Watch the penny, go to sleep. I don't have to do I don't have to do any of that, love. You can just use language. And as you're talking to them, you use your language, and then you're actually quite consciously embedding commands into the language as you're talking to them, and you're saying to them, well, as you're feeling better, so you use the 3-step process, which you do in hypnosis, which is a similar thing that you do in sales, all right? So if you get somebody to say yes 3 times, they're probably going to say yes the 4th time. So in hypnosis, you'll say something like, as you're sitting in the room, lying on the couch, as you're here in the room, as you're lying on the couch, as you're relaxing, hearing the sound of my voice, feeling yourself relaxing as you're going deeper and deeper, and as you're more and more relaxed. That's right. Just allowing yourself to let go. That's it. Just slowing down. And you're just getting deeper and deeper. And then just go, woo. And then what you're doing is you just take it in, and they just go, oh, I'm feeling more relaxed. And then you put in nice, powerful commands, like as they begin to relax, you say, that's good, you're relaxing. And they go, yes, I feel I'm relaxed. You say, and how's your pain feeling now? And they go, oh, that's feeling better. And then you can say, well, that's good. Look, as you're relaxing, your pain's feeling better. So you can begin to start to introduce hypnosis in at quite an early point, because hypnosis as and of itself, I can use with people if they want to have really good pain relief. All right. So supposing someone's got really severe nerve pain, and they don't really want to have big injections, then what I can do is I can teach them how to control it through hypnosis. So I can teach them how to learn how to go into a deeper relaxed state, how to go into a self-hypnotized state, and then I can teach them to go from there, and I can take them into a deep state. So it sort of progressively goes down. Does that make sense?
Yep. We got a question from my Aunt Gwen. Hi, Aunt Gwen. How are you? She said, Jill, would you I'm sure you can see it. Would you recommend the Feldenkrais method for
replacement? Well, first of all, Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais is named after Moshe Feldenkrais, and Feldenkrais isn't a treatment. Feldenkrais is a learning process. So if you've got, let's say you've had a hip replacement, and before the hip replacement, you were walking a certain way, like you were leaning from side to side or something like that, or taking a strange step, right? Then what you can definitely do through using Feldenkrais is you can definitely improve your way of using your body. So you can get your walking pattern basically to look younger. And I always find women are attracted to that, and men, of course. But you can actually regain the more natural, normal walking patterns. Does that make sense? So you can actually get back that nice flow of walking so that you're moving in a nice straight line, and also getting the up and down movement, which is the sort of useful. When younger people walk, they walk up and down like this. And when older people walk, they go side to side.
Yeah, that's true. And they shift their feet.
And if you watch them walking, they have flat bottoms as well. If you watch elderly people walking and you look from the back view, they all have flat backsides because they don't extend their hips. But as I say, you can, with Feldenkrais, it's a learning method, and so it's about rediscovering how to use your body again. Because when you have pain, what happens is that you tense up and you move strangely. And when you feel better, you want to actually begin to start to learn how to use your body. So yeah, Feldenkrais would be great for that.
That's awesome. I mean, that is awesome. You are obviously one of the most knowledgeable people I know, because I can't even say Feldenkrais. I called it Feldenkrais for a couple times. But I think when it comes to not just pain, but when we look at, in America at least, in America, what we're seeing right now is just people being ravaged or just, completely consumed in this opioid addiction. And it's happening, and it is a pain. It's a pain reliever per se. It's not necessarily a cure. And so my question would be, how do you, as a person who helps with pain management, how do you balance the opioid use along with physical therapy and everything like that?
It's very difficult because one of the things with opioids is that there are papers to show that actually opioid use can actually make your system less able to produce its own painkillers. So once somebody starts to have opioids, the problem is that if you begin to start to reduce it, you can have problems but I think the thing is that if you're going to begin to start to reduce somebody's pain, you've got to have a good alternative that you're going to offer them, because otherwise the anger and fear, I go on Facebook groups and, there's people there sort of saying, well, I've only got enough pain to last me like till Friday, and then I won't get my scripts till Monday and things like this. I mean, you can't really deal with people that way. We don't have the same problem in the UK. This is the thing. We don't have the same problem. The problem hasn't arisen in the same way here. We've got people being given opioids, but in a far more controlled way. And I think the problem from as I understand it, is it's almost become like it's their fault that they're having to take opioids. And I think the problem is that I don't think they're being offered any option. And I think the fact that they were given opioids right at the beginning is a really difficult one. I think, I mean, we can't, I mean, I don't know much about cannabinoids, I have to say, if that's how you pronounce it. I was thinking cannibals, but anyway, I know that the biggest problem, here they're not legal. And I think the biggest problem here is because of possible psychotic effects and things like that. But I think there are going to be increasing numbers of people who are going to be looking to alternative forms of therapeutics. But I think it's a big problem. I think it's a really big problem. I really do. And I think the other thing is that recently one of my clients went to a pain management doctor here. She was on no pain medication at all. She didn't need it. And he immediately started talking about pain meds. And fortunately, I'd spoken to her. If she hadn't come to me before, she probably would have started taking something. And I think the problem is that people don't know. People don't know that there are these more natural ways that you can actually work with your own pain. And I think more people need to be given support, to be honest. I really do. That's my feeling. I think it's very difficult over there. I think it really is.
Yeah, it's a weird world we live in America. It really, like, medically, it's a very weird place. And we see a lot of, we have physical therapy, obviously. Medicine is medicine. But I think it's easier. It's far more profitable than actually curing somebody. That's a whole nother conversation now. When it comes to your what is it? It's not the pain management, not the hypnosis, the actual case management.
Yeah.
Case management. So how is it that, what is case management? What do you do when you are a case manager?
Right, well, when I do case management, I do case management in all the work I do. So when someone comes to see me, because I work with the biological, the psychological, the social, and what I call life purpose, life purpose, I do it all the time anyway. But if I'm working for the law firms, if I'm working for joint instruction, so it's people who've had major road accidents, I'm jointly instructed. So I will be put in, paid by both sides, and I will then be instructed to look after what goes on at the behind the scenes in the case to make sure the person has all the rehab. So I commission services and I find the people, and then I actually have to organise them doing the jobs, make sure they get all the reports in on time, get all my reports in, make sure everybody's happy, and that's what I have to do. So it's a lot of organising. So it's managing, organising, finding the right people, making sure they all like each other, and that's what it's all about, really. And talking to the claimant a lot, because I do a lot of coaching. So there's a lot of coaching, because I do a lot of coaching, and I do a lot of coaching with the claimants, because I do a lot of very positive, proactive coaching. So whether that's my people because all of the people who present with physical problems have got psychological problems.
That's big.
All of them, you can't separate. So all of them end up with, they've all got trauma, they've all got PTSD, they've all got all sorts of stuff going on here. They're all depressed, and none of them. So basically, all of it is coaching. Does that make sense? So yeah. Most of what I do, I was breaking it down the other day. Most of what I do management, education, and coaching or training or whatever you want it. That's what I do with everybody. And it all boils down to personal development. All of it, Ashley, it all comes down to personal development work. It really does. Because ultimately, it's like when you said about the pain thing, it's very difficult for people who are in pain to get a grip on the fact that there might possibly be a relationship with their emotional state and their pain, and it's very difficult. But the bottom line is, if you think of the number of high profile celebrity cases where we've had deaths and things like this, I mean, they're not exactly people who that you if you look at them from the outside, you'd often say, oh, that person definitely needs a bit of support.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that over the years, because I've worked with a lot of wealthy people as well as a lot of people from the bottom. So I've worked with people from all spectrums, and if you've got somebody with lots of money, it doesn't mean that you get fantastic basic help. You can actually often get a lot of hangers-on and people who actually think it's great to sort of almost make the money out of the people that you're working with. And I think what's important is to realize that you can't separate. So it's like everything I do has evolved, not because I decided I wanted to go and do different jobs, but because there was a need for me to be doing these different things for people. So it was like, I need to help the person to sort out how they're going to get back to work. So let's do some vocational rehab training. Let's sort out how we're going to manage this part. So everything sort of fits together and it makes a whole big package. But no matter who I work with, Ashley, it all ends up there's all sorts of stuff that's gone on in the past. There's all sorts of history of, people who have road accidents, it's not by chance,
Yeah, never thought about it.
It's like if you're driving down the road and you're not really concentrating, you're going to run into the vehicle in front of you.
That's true.
If you're running down the road and you're really concentrating on what you're doing, the chances are you're not going to slip over. If you're running down the road and you're thinking about work and you're a bit stressed and you're not really looking, and that's when you trip over and hurt yourself. So invariably, there's all sorts of other stuff going on that when you actually begin to sort of dig beneath the surface, there's lots of other stuff going on in life as well. 99.9% of the clients who I see, when I talk to them, it's like, well, actually.
That's crazy. And I never thought about it, but I'm thinking about when I was little, I got in all kinds of accidents. And I was the worst with concentration. I got scars from my head to my toe. And when I think back, and even to my most recent scar that I acquired, you're right. Like, every time that I have hurt myself, it's because I wasn't fully engaged in what I was doing, and I was I was doing it half-mindedly, and that's something that I think is something that needs to be broadcasted throughout the whole entire world, like on a blimp, flying around in 180 degrees, because it's literally the most truth I've ever heard in my life, and now I'm going to make an effort to be more conscious, so I'm not, burning myself with the oven, which is something I do often for some reason. And it's when I think about it. Huh.
Well, but you see, that's no different in business. Because when you think about it, it's no different in business. Because if you don't focus on what you're doing in business, what actually happens is you lose the plot and everything falls apart. So you've got to keep your eye on it the whole time. So in life, it's the same thing. So it's like, if you've got, I would guarantee, out of anybody who walks in my door who's got any problem that's going on, that when I begin, and especially if it's somebody who's had a problem and it just doesn't seem to be resolving, that when I actually begin to start to talk to them and say, what else is going on? And they say, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, what else is going on? And it's like, well, I'm getting divorced, and the house sale has just fallen through, and then out it all comes. Does that make sense? So it's like it's not by chance. So there's a whole what shall we call it, life inventory that you can do, life events inventory, and if you score over about 300, then you're going to have an illness. And if you score over seriously. And if you score over 500, you're definitely going to be ill. So basically, it's a tick box thing where every life event causes you a degree of stress and emotion, right? And we all have it the whole time. But if you load too much in, what happens is that your system just can't take it. And so, hi there, Jeff. So I was going to say, so basically, I had one time where I had a whole group of my clients, about 5 of them, who'd all been coming in, and they'd all scored high on life inventory, and I put them all through a stress management course at the same time that I ran, and they were. I'll send a copy. I'll send a copy over. I'll send a copy over to you.
Yeah. I kind of want to see this. Yeah, where do we find this tick box? I need to know.
I'll send you one. Well, because this is there's lots of different forms of it, but I'll send it across. But the thing is, every single event you have to take some with a little bit of leeway. So, for example, one of them is like death of spouse. But if you have a pet that is your favourite dog or cat that you've had forever, and your dog dies, that's going to really upset you emotionally, yes? So it would be like, that's going to cause a life event. Do you understand?
Yeah, and then now you have, I'm in a trance kind of thing with this. I'm like, now I need to know. I need to know everything. I'm going to check these boxes. What is going to happen to me? And that's crazy. And like I said, there's this concept that you brought to me that just blew my mind. The concept that honestly nothing happens on accident, and when something bad happens, like pain-wise, usually it's because you're not present. That just blew my mind in so many different ways. And what I was gonna say is, have you been in school? Are you still in school? How does someone get all of these credentials? How does this happen? How do you have time to do this?
How do I have time? Well, I got divorced.
Oh.
This is the story. And basically, I was brought up as a Roman Catholic, actually. And Roman Catholics don't get divorced. So to get divorced was big trauma, right? And after I got divorced, my ex-husband decided to go and live in Scotland, which is a long way away from where I live. And I ended up with the children on my own. So I actually ended up bringing the children up by myself and focusing on them. So to keep myself amused, I studied. So instead of going on holidays and things like that, I used to take the children on holidays, but I used to go off and do studying. That's what I did. Like I worked, looked after the children, took them on holidays and studied. And that's what I did. So of course I went to university. I went to college and various things. I'm still doing a course at the moment. I'm still studying something at the moment. Yes, I never finish. I never finish.
Oh my goodness. And I know you're that's insane to me, because once I got out of high school, I was like, I'm done. You know what? Throw it all in. I don't want to go back to school. I tried college, and you know so much, and I'm sure a lot of it comes from just life experience. In divorce and raising kids by yourself. But where does that drive you have come from? How do you, it's hard for some people to even get up out of bed, let alone raise their kids alone. Where is that drive coming from?
Do you know, I think it comes from the moment I was born. And I think I think there are two things. Firstly, I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. And my father delivered me, and it was only because of his presence of mind that I actually am alive, basically, because if he hadn't taken that off, I would probably be brain damaged. And then what happened was they put me in the corner of the room. This has always been a family debate. Why was I put in the corner of the room? What, mother? Mother, why was I put in the corner of the room? So my first experiences would have been fighting for my life. Do you understand? Absolutely, absolutely fighting for my life to not die. Okay, so nothing. I think the fact that I did that meant that it gave me a tremendous strength. Do you understand? And I'm also dyslexic. But I didn't know I was dyslexic until I was doing my postgrad. All right, so I didn't know I was dyslexic. Because when I was at school, I wanted to learn to read. And I learned to read when I was 4. So the first school I went to, I used to just write, and I had no idea about grammar and spelling or anything. I just used to write the whole time. And it was only at the second school that they said to me, you can't spell and write, so don't do any writing. That's it. That's it. So I stopped all creative writing. And I had a great deal of trouble passing exams. So I decided, because I knew I was clever, right? Don't ask me why. I knew I was clever, right? And I knew that there was something about these exams, and I decided the reason I didn't pass these exams was I didn't know enough. So I used to go, and because I loved reading, I used to go way off track. So we would have school books that we would be reading, and I would go and I would find all the interesting things that were all the sort of divergent topics. Do you understand? So it was like, oh, this is slightly interesting, but I actually like to read the history of the shoe, you know. So I get into other stuff, right? And I think because of that, it just instilled in me this huge love of learning and finding out. And I think it's as simple as that. I absolutely adore I adore finding out about new things, and that's it. I adore being around people and listening and hearing what they have to say. And I think if you're saying when you left school, I think the thing is, what I would say to you is your teachers failed you.
They tried plenty of times.
But what they never did was they never managed to get you to find anything that was so exciting that you wanted to know more about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, because those things weren't taught in school. The things I love, the things I want to know more about. I love Hollywood. I love TV. You know, and these are things you aren't taught in school. And it's not just actually watching TV or consuming TV. It's writing. It's making good TV. It's creating something amazing that people can watch. So it wasn't something. As I got older, and I started doing those things, I started realizing, and I was able to branch out from regular school. Yeah, then I could just dive into what I love doing. But as soon as I got out of that traditional education, I booked it and I never looked back because I just couldn't do it. And it's not that I'm dumb, it's that those are things you can always go back and learn. What I'm doing right now in my life, I either do it now or I never get into it. I mean, there are very few people who become cast in any sort of show at 50. You know what I mean? You have to take this crap by the horns and just go in. And that's what I had to do. It's crazy. But it's not just your drive or your education. There's this stillness about you. To where I don't even know if still is the word, but it's like a quietness, but it's like I don't even know the word. Maybe I should have went to school longer. But there's this presence you bring.
Mm.
And what it is it's not necessarily, because in the back of your mind, I know you know everything that you know, and I know that you know how important you are to the world. But you've never come off as arrogant. You've never come off as rude. You just seem like someone who's here to help. And I have family members who are, who have a bunch of letters after their name, and they'll make sure that you know that. They'll make sure that you are aware of how important they think they are. But you bring something to the table when it comes to finding, watching older people live and work and breathe, you bring something to the table that I don't see very often. And that is just plain humility. I mean, and grace. And maybe it's because you're English and I live in America and we don't have any sort of poise in America. That could be it. But I have to thank you for being that person. Even if it's a country away, you have no idea how important it is to us as kids to see people older than us humbling themselves, saying, yes, I'm willing to help you. People who are, 2 times our age saying, you aren't an idiot because you do this online. That aspect you bring to the Facebook world is something that is untouched. It's very, very hard to find. And I'll tell you, that right there is something that brought you on the show. That's innovation if I've never heard it before. Not only are you relearning something that you have to learn from 10-year-olds, essentially, but you're willing to learn it. And so on behalf of everybody under the age of 30, I would like to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Of course. Before we get out of here, though, let's have some fun. What is your favorite book of all time? I'm sure you've read a million of them.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Actually, well, I'll have to just say the first one that comes to mind. That was Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, which is, I don't know if you've ever come across it. It's a salient book which was written in the I think it was written in the 1960s. It's a very old book, but it was actually a book that I read when I was doing my A-levels, and it was a book all about pollution, and it was part of what got me into being deeply interested in the environment.
Nice.
Yeah.
What kind of music do you listen to?
Oh, God. I listen to lots of classical music, actually. I listen to a lot of classical music, but I also like rock music. But I do listen to a lot of classical music, I'm afraid. I listen to a lot of all sorts. Opera. I love opera. I love opera, and but I love rock music. All forms of rock music, and I play djembe.
Nice. Do you like the Beatles?
Beatles? Yeah, but not as much as I like sort of some of the other, like Yes, and some of the other kinds of music I was more into because I was a punk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a punk. And then I actually, because the music that I used to listen to when I was younger, but yeah, it was heavy rock music. I was into heavy rock as well.
And movie, what is one of your favorite movies of all time?
Oh gosh, again, I don't go to see many movies. I don't go to see many movies. I really don't. I don't watch many movies. And I can't think of the names of any of them right now. It's as bad as that. I've got one.
Awesome. Paddington Bear, fun fact, is the person who introduced me to marmalade.
Oh, have you ever made marmalade?
No, I've never made it. We don't really have it. We got jelly over here. We're not.
If you've never made marmalade, you must make marmalade.
This is something I'm probably going to end up doing this weekend.
Because it is so easy to make. And it is basically, you have to get certain kinds of oranges. But when you make marmalade, you cut the rind so that you actually have that. So you have to make sure you get any chemicals off and stuff like that. But if you make marmalade, you can make it with chunks in it. And you can make all different kinds of marmalade. So you can make orange and lemon marmalade.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a bit like making chutney. Have you ever made chutney?
No, I just buy grape jelly. That's what I do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Chutney. Yeah, and I know there's different types of jam. The first time I ever had marmalade was with free cheese on a cracker, and it was the most delicious thing I'd ever had in my entire life. So now I'm definitely going to have to make some marmalade. I just made a pie today, which is pretty cool.
I saw it. Looked very good.
Yeah, I actually cut the little diamonds out, too. I have like a stencil. But that was awesome. I've had so much fun today, Jill, and I probably will extend the season 3 invitation to you, even though it's supposed to be all new people, because I can always talk to you, and you're a fantastic human being, and I think you're awesome. And if I were to be English and need to be adopted, I would hope you'd come pick me up.
Well, if you come to the UK, then you're welcome to come and visit.
Awesome. All right, is there any other wisdom you'd like to leave for your audience before we get out of here?
I think the most important thing is that it is very important to remember that if you put a pen in your mouth, I've got a pen, you put a pen in your mouth that way, all right, put a pen that way, yeah, so your mouth goes into a smile, it makes you feel happier.
Oh!
So if you feel miserable, go and get a biro and stick it in your mouth like that or walk around the house.
That's actually awesome. Yeah, I'm going to keep a pen in my pocket at all times now. Well, Jill, like I said, today has been fantastic. Thank you for staying up. First of all, I forgot to even say that. Thank you for staying up. I'm sure you're tired. You are the best. And guys, Jill is awesome. Please look her up. Please, she welcomes questions, but don't get on her nerves. She'll tell you, which is also awesome. You guys, I'll be back Wednesday, but I have to go eat because I got a pie sitting there and it just smells so good. Thank you so much, Jill. All right, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh, go.